All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on something called the silent rule of technocracy. It's this hidden power that, believe it or not, shapes a huge part of our world, way beyond the reach of the public eye. So, let me ask you this. Who really runs the world? I mean, we're always told that in a democracy, the answer is supposed to be simple, right? It's us, the people, through the officials we elect. But is that the whole story? I'm not so sure. Let's dig in. Think about it. So many of the huge decisions that affect your day-to-day life, I'm talking about the interest rate on your mortgage, the safety standards for the food you eat, they aren't actually made by the politicians you voted for. Nope, they're made in these quiet rooms, in places we almost never see. Okay, so here's the plan for our journey today. First, we're going to define this invisible empire. Then we'll look at why it even became a thing, why it was necessary. After that, we'll pinpoint its modern-day fortresses, break down the huge clash it has with democracy, and finally, we'll try to figure out if there's a way to find some balance. All right, let's dive into Section 1. It's time to put a name to this force that's operating in the shadows of our political system. And that name is technocracy. At its absolute core, technocracy is just rule by experts. It's a system where what matters most is technical knowledge, hard data, and scientific reason, not so much political beliefs or what's popular at the moment. And you can probably already see how this creates a pretty fundamental tension in how we're governed today. Yeah, this chart really nails the core conflict, doesn't it? On one side, you've got our elected politicians. They have legitimacy, because we voted for them. But let's be honest, they often don't have that deep technical know-how. Then, on the other side, you have the unelected experts. They've got the competence, for sure. They know their stuff, but nobody voted for them. They lack that democratic legitimacy. So, you might be asking, how in the world did we get here? Well, it's important to know this wasn't some grand conspiracy. It was really a response to a simple fact. Our world just got way too complicated for politicians to handle all by themselves. I mean, just think about it for a second. Can we seriously expect a politician who maybe has a degree in history or law to understand all the insane details of, say, global financial systems, or climate change modeling, or how to regulate the internet? No way. These things demand incredibly deep, specialized knowledge. And this brings us to a really key idea: information asymmetry. It sounds fancy, but it's simple. It's the power gap that opens up when experts know critical stuff that politicians and, well, the rest of us just don't. And it's right inside that gap where power quietly slips away from the people we elect to the people who are appointed. This quote just captures the whole thing perfectly. The politician gets to be the face, the one who cuts the ribbon at the big opening ceremony. But the real power? That belongs to the anonymous engineers and inspectors, the technocrats, the ones who actually make sure the whole building doesn't fall down. Okay, so if this power exists, where is it? Where is it concentrated today? Let's go exploring and check out what we can call the 3 modern-day fortresses of technocracy. Right, we're talking about central banks, regulatory agencies, and international organizations. And what's wild is that these places are designed to be walled off from day-to-day politics. They're built to be these fortresses where decisions are made based on data, not debates. Let's start with fortress number 1, central banks. These guys are maybe the clearest example of all. You have a small group of unelected economists who can decide to raise interest rates. That one decision can literally trigger a recession and affect millions of jobs. Now, their independence is supposed to guarantee economic stability, which is good. But man, that is an incredible amount of power to have without anyone ever voting for you. Okay, fortress number 2, regulatory agencies. Think about this. Congress might pass a super broad, one-page law that just says something like, cars must be safe. Simple enough. But then it's an agency, some group you've probably never heard of, that writes the thousands of pages of super technical rules about airbags and brakes and crash tests. Those aren't just details. That is the law in practice. That's what actually governs how things work.
And for our third fortress, we go global. We're talking about organizations like the IMF or the World Health Organization. When the WHO puts out pandemic guidelines or the IMF demands really strict economic changes in exchange for a bailout loan, those decisions are made by international experts, and they can pretty much override what a democratically elected government wants to do. That's a huge, huge tension with the whole idea of a country running itself.
And this, right here, brings us to the very heart of the problem, the democratic dilemma. What happens when this world of rational, expert rules smacks right into the messy, human principles of democracy? They call it the ivory tower syndrome. And it makes sense. To an economist, sitting in their office, looking at charts, raising interest rates is just a logical tool to fight inflation. It's rational. But out here in the real world, for millions of families, that same rational decision means their mortgage payment just went through the roof and they can't afford it. That massive disconnect between a clean policy and its messy human impact, well, that's where so much public distrust comes from. So here it is, the great debate, laid out for us. You can see the case for technocracy is actually pretty strong, right? It promises stability, long-term planning, decisions based on facts, not just whatever is popular that week. But then, the case for democracy is about something so fundamental. It's about accountability. It's about the consent of the people being governed. And maybe most importantly, it gives us a way to fix things, elections, when the experts, and they do, get it wrong. So where does that leave us? Look, we can't just get rid of technocracy. Our world is way too complex for that. But we obviously can't abandon democracy either. So the real puzzle, the final question is, how do we find a healthy balance between these two powerful forces? All right, so what could a path forward actually look like? Well, it seems to come down to a two-part solution. First up, transparency. The experts have to get better at explaining what they're doing and why, in simple language that everyone can understand. And second, empowered oversight. Our elected officials need to actually have the tools and the knowledge to question and audit what the experts recommend, not just blindly sign off on it. When you boil it all down, this is really the main takeaway. The goal here isn't to reject expertise. That would be foolish. The goal is to put expertise back where it belongs, in the service of democracy, not in charge of it. It should be a tool that we, the people, get to use through the representatives we choose. And so that leaves us with a really critical question, one that's going to shape the future of our societies. In this world that's only getting more and more complex, how do we empower the experts we need without accidentally disempowering ourselves? How do we use all that amazing knowledge without quietly handing over the keys to our own democracy?